The winter wind howled across the mountain pass, driving sheets of icy sleet against the wooden shutters of the rusting Boar Inn. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of cheap ale, roasting grease, and unwashed wool. 19-year-old Emma Carter scrubbed the grease-stained oak table with a frayed rag, her fingers raw and red from the freezing water. She wore a faded brown dress that was 2 sizes too small, patched at the elbows and knees. Yet, despite the dirt and grueling labor, her posture remained naturally straight, and her dark green eyes held a quiet, unbroken dignity. "Faster, girl," barked Master Gort, the corpulent innkeeper, slapping his heavy hand onto the counter. "The snow is blocking the high road. We'll have a house full of stranded travelers tonight, and if the broth isn't hot, I'll take the cost out of your wages." "It is ready, Master Gort," Emma replied softly, keeping her gaze lowered to hide the flicker of quiet anger in her eyes. Wages were a cruel joke. Gort barely gave her enough stale bread and thin cabbage soup to survive. Emma reached under her collar, her fingers absently brushing against a small, hard object hidden beneath her thin linen shift, a heavy silver pendant shaped like a leaping wolf entangled in trailing ivy. Her mother, Rebecca Carter, had carried it for years and placed it in Emma's hands on her deathbed 5 years ago. Rebecca had received it from her own mother, Grace Carter, and had protected it until the end. It was the only memory Emma possessed of her family, passed down from grandmother to mother before finally resting against Emma's heart. Suddenly, the heavy iron-reinforced doors of the inn were thrown open. A freezing gust of wind blew into the tavern, flickering the oil lamps and making the patrons shiver. 3 men stepped through the threshold, shaking snow from their heavy fur cloaks. The tavern fell dead silent. These were not common merchants or local hunters. The man in the center stood over 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered and imposing. He wore a dark leather coat lined with white fox fur, and at his hip hung a long broadsword with a pommel shaped like a wolf's head. But it was his presence that paralyzed the room, a suffocating, invisible weight that pressed down on every heart in the tavern. It was the aura of an alpha. And not just any alpha. "A room for the night," the leader demanded, his deep, resonant voice echoing through the quiet tavern. "And food for my men." Master Gort practically tripped over his own feet as he rushed out from behind the bar, bowing so low his nose nearly touched the grease-stained floor. "My lord. Welcome, welcome to the Rusting Boar. Right this way to the private booth by the hearth." Emma watched from the kitchen doorway